In the last video, it was silent for the last part of the video. So the last video should have stopped at about 2150. And so I'm going to pick up from where my voice was lost in the last video. So the last video, my voice stopped after clear and gave them the glass to look. Then they tried to look, but the remembrance of the last things that the shepherds had showed them made their hands shake, by means of which impediment they could not look steadily through the glass. Yet they thought they saw something like the gate, and also some of the glory of the place. Then they went away and sang, "Thus by the shepherds secrets are revealed, which from all other men are kept concealed. Come to the shepherds then, if you would see things deep, things hid, and that mysterious be." When they were about to depart, one of the shepherds gave them a note of the way. Another of them bid them beware of the flatterer. The third bid them take heed that they step not upon the enchanted ground. And the fourth bid them Godspeed. So I awoke from my dream. And I slept and dreamed again, and saw the same two pilgrims going down the mountain along the highway towards the city. Now a little below these mountains, on the left hand, lieth the country of Conceit, from which country there comes into the way in which the pilgrims walked, a little crooked lane. Here therefore they met with a very brisk lad that came out of that country, and his name was Ignorance. So Christian asked him from what parts he came and whither he was going. Ignorance: Sir, I was born in the country that lieth off there, a little on the left hand, and am going to the celestial city. Christian: But how do you think to get in at the gate? For you may find some difficulty there. Ignorance: As other good people do, said he. Christian: But what have you to show at that gate, that the gate should be opened to you? Ignorance: I know my Lord's will, and have been a good liver. I pay every man his own. I pray, fast, pay tithes, and give alms, and have left my country for whither I am going. Christian: But thou camest not in at the wicket gate, that is at the head of this way. Thou camest in hither through that same crooked lane, and therefore I fear, however thou mayest think thyself, when the reckoning day shall come, thou shalt have laid to thy charge that thou art a thief and a robber, instead of getting admittance into the city. Ignorance: Gentlemen, ye be utter strangers to me. I know you not. Be content to follow the religion of your country, and I will follow the religion of mine. I hope all will be well. And as for the gate that you talk of, all the world knows that this is a great way off of our country. I cannot think that any men in all our parts do so much as know the way to it, nor need they matter whether they did or no, since we have, as you see, a fine pleasant green lane that comes down from our country the next way into it. When Christian saw that the man was wise in his own conceit, he said to Hopeful whisperingly, There is more hopes of a fool than of him. And said moreover, When he that is a fool walketh by the way, his wisdom faileth him, and he saith to every one that he is a fool. What shall we talk farther with him, or outgo him at present, and so leave him to think of what he hath heard already, and then stop again for him afterwards? and see if by degrees we can do any good of him. Then said Hopeful, Let ignorance a little while now muse on what is said, and let him not refuse good counsel to embrace, lest he remain, still ignorant of what's the chiefest gain. God saith, Those that no understanding have, although he made them he will not have. Hopeful. He farther added, It is not good, I think, to say to him all at once, Let us pass him by, if you will, and talk to him anon, even as he is able to bear it. So they went both on, and Ignorance he came after. Now when they had passed him a little way, they entered into a very dark lane, where they met a man whom 7 devils had bound with 7 strong cords, and were carrying of him back to the door that they saw on the side of the hill. Now good Christian began to tremble, and so did Hopeful his companion. Yet as the devils led away the man, Christian looked to see if he knew him. And he thought it might be one Turnaway, that dwelt in the town of Apostasy, but he did not perfectly see his face. For he did hang his head like a thief that is found. But being gone past, Hopeful looked after him, and espied on his back a paper with this inscription, Wanton professor and damnable apostate. Then said Christian to his fellow, Now I call to remembrance that which was told me of a thing that happened to a good man hereabout. The name of the man was Little Faith, but a good man, and he dwelt in the town of Sincere. The thing was this: at the entering in at this passage, there comes down from Broadway Gate a lane called Dead Man's Lane, so called because of the murders that are commonly done there. And this Little Faith, going on pilgrimage, as we do now, chanced to sit down there, and slept. Now there happened at that time to come down the lane from Broadway Gate 3 sturdy rogues, and their names were Faint Heart, Mistrust, and Guilt, 3 brothers. And they, espying Little Faith where he was, came galloping up with speed. Now the good man was just awakened from his sleep, and was getting up to go on his journey. So they came up all to him, and with threatening language bid him stand. At this Little Faith looked as white as a clout, and had neither power to fight nor fly. Then said Faint Heart, Deliver thy purse. But he, making no haste to do it, for he was loth to lose his money, Mistrust ran up to him, and thrusting his hand into his pocket, pulled out thence a bag of silver. Then he cried out, Thieves, thieves! With that Guilt, with a great club that was in his hand, struck Little Faith on the head, and with that blow felled him flat on the ground, where he lay bleeding as one that would bleed to death. All this while the thieves stood by. But at last they, hearing that some were upon the road, and fearing lest it should be one great grace that dwells in the city of good confidence, they betook themselves to their heels, and left this good man to shift for himself. Now after a while Little Faith came to himself, and getting up made a shift to scrabble on his way. This was the story. Hopeful. But did they take from him all that he had? Christian. No. The place where his jewels were they never ransacked, so those he kept still. But as I was told, the good man was much afflicted for his loss. For the thieves got most of his spending money. That which they got not, as I said, were jewels. Also he had a little odd money left, but scarce enough to bring him to his journey's end. Nay, if I was not misinformed, he was forced to beg as he went, so keep himself alive, for his jewels he might not sell, but beg and do what he could. He went, as we say, with many a hungry belly, and most part of the rest of the way. Hope. But is it not a wonder they got not from him his certificate, by which he was to receive his admittance to the celestial gate? Christian. It is a wonder, but they got not that, though they missed it not through any good cunning of his, for he being dismayed with their coming upon him, had neither power nor skill to hide anything. So it was more by good providence than by his endeavor that they missed of that good thing. Hopeful. But it must needs be a comfort to him that they got not his jewels from him. Christian. It might have been great comfort to him had he used it as he should, but they that told me the story said that he made but little use of it all the rest of the way, and that because of the dismay that he had in the taking away his money, indeed he forgot it a great part of the rest of the journey. And besides, when at any time it came into his mind, and he began to be comforted therewith, then would fresh thoughts of his loss come again upon him, and those thoughts would swallow up all. Hopeful. Alas, poor man! This could not be but greater grief to him. Grief, a grief indeed. Would it not have been so to any of us had we been used as he, to be robbed and wounded too, and that in a strange place as he was? It is a wonder he did not die with grief, poor heart. I was told that he scattered almost all the rest of the way with nothing but doleful and bitter complaints, telling also to all that overtook him, or that he overtook in the way as he went, where he was robbed, and who they were that did it, and what he lost, how he was wounded, and that he hardly escaped with his life. Hopeful. But it is a wonder that his necessity did not put him upon selling or pawning some of his jewels, that he might have wherewithal to relieve himself in his journey. Christian. Thou talkest like one upon whose head is the shell to this very day. For what should he pawn them? Or to whom should he sell them? In all that country where he was robbed, his jewels were not accounted of, nor did he want that relief which he could from thence be administered to him. Besides, had his jewels been missing at the gate of the celestial city, he had, and that he knew well enough, been excluded from an inheritance there, and that would have been worse to him than the appearance and villainy of 10,000 thieves. Hopeful. Why art thou so tart, my brother? Esau sold his birthright, and that for a mess of pottage, and that birthright was his greatest jewel. And if he might not little faith do so too? Christian. Esau did sell his birthright indeed, and so do many besides, and by so doing exclude themselves from the chief blessing, as also that caitiff did. But you must put a difference betwixt Esau and little faith, and also betwixt their estates. Esau's birthright was typical, But little faith's jewels were not so. Esau's belly was his God, but little faith's belly was not so. Esau's want lay in his fleshly appetite. Little faith's did not so. Besides, Esau could see no farther than to the fulfilling of his lusts. For I am at that point to die, said he, and what God will this birthright do me. But little faith, though it was his lot to have but a little faith, was by his little faith kept from such extravagances, and made to see and prize his jewels more than to sell them as Esau did his birthright. You read not anywhere that Esau had faith. No, not so much as a little. Therefore no marvel if where the flesh only bears sway, as it will in that man where no faith is to resist, if he sells his birthright and his soul and all, and that to the devil of hell, for it is with such as it is with the ass who in her occasions cannot be turned away. When their minds are set upon their lusts, they will have them whatever the cost. But little faith was of another temper. His mind was on things divine. His livelihood was upon things that were spiritual and from above. Therefore, to what end should he that is of such a temper sell his jewels? Had there been any that would have bought them to fill his mind with empty things? Will a man give a penny to fill his belly with hay? Or can you persuade the turtle dove to live upon carrion like the crow? Though faithless ones can, for carnal lusts, pawn or mortgage or sell what they have, and themselves outright to boot, yet they that have faith, saving faith, should but a little of it cannot do so. Here therefore, my brother, is thy mistake. I acknowledge it, but yet your severe reflection had almost made me angry. What I did but compare thee to some of the birds, Christian, what I did but compare thee to some of the birds that are of the brisker sort, who will run to and fro in untrodden paths with the shell upon their heads. But pass by that, and consider the matter under debate, and all shall be well betwixt thee and me. But hopeful, but Christian, these three fellows, I am persuaded in my heart, are but a company of cowards. Would they have run else, think you, as they did at the noise of one that was coming on the road? Why did not little faith pluck up a great heart? He might, methinks, have stood one brush with them, and have yielded when there had been no remedy. Christian, that they are cowards, many have said, but few have found it so in the time of trial. As for a great heart, little faith had none. And I perceive by thee, my brother, hadst thou been the man concerned, thou art but for a brush, and then to yield. And verily, since this is the height of thy stomach, now they are at distance from us. Should they appear to thee as they did to him, they might put thee to second thoughts. But consider again, they are but journeymen thieves. They serve under the king of the bottomless pit, who if need be will come in to their aid himself, and his voice is as the roaring of a lion. I may myself have been engaged as this little faith was, and I found it a terrible thing. These three villains set upon me, and I beginning like a Christian to resist, they gave but a call, and in came their master. I would, as the saying is, have given my life for a penny, but that, as God would have it, I was clothed with armor of proof. And yet, though I was so harnessed, I found it hard work to quit myself like a man. No man can tell what in that combat attends us, but he that hath been in the battle himself. Hopeful. Well, but they ran, you see, when they did but suppose that one great grace was in the way. Christian. True, they have often fled, both they and their master, when great grace hath but appeared, and no marvel, for he is the king's champion. But I trow you will put some difference between little faith and the king's champion. All the king's subjects are not his champions, nor can they, when tried, do such feats of war as he. Is it meet to think that a little child should handle Goliath and David did, or that there should be the strength of an ox in a ren? Some are strong, some are weak. Some have great faith, some have little. This man was one of the weak, and therefore he went to the wall. Hopeful. I would it had been great grace for their sakes. Christian. If it had been he might have had his hands full. For I must tell you that though great grace is excellent good at his weapons, and has, and can, so long as he keeps them at the sword's point, do well enough with them, yet if they get within him, even faint heart, mistrust, or the other, it will go hard. But they will throw up his heels, and when a man is down, you know, what can he do? Whoso looks well upon great grace's face shall see those scars and cuts there that shall easily give demonstration of what I say. Yea, once I heard that he should say, and that when he was in the combat, we despaired even of life. How did these sturdy rogues and their fellows make David groan, mourn, and roar? Yea, Haman and Hezekiah too, though champions in their days, were forced to bestir them when by these assaulted, and yet notwithstanding they had their coats soundly brushed by them. Peter, upon a time, would go try what he could. But though some do say of him that he is the prince of the apostles, they handled him so, that they made him at last afraid of a sorry girl. Besides, their king is at their whistle, and is never out of hearing. And if at any time they be put to the worst, he, if possible, comes in to help them. And of him it is said, the sword of him that layeth at him cannot hold, the spear, the dart, nor the habergeon. He esteemeth iron as straw, and brass as rotten wood. The arrows cannot make him fly. Slingstones are turned with him into stubble. Darts are counted as stubble. He laugheth at the shaking of a spear. What can a man do in this case? It is true, if a man could at every turn have Job's horse, and had skill and courage to ride him, he might do notable things. For his neck is clothed with thunder. He will not be afraid of the grasshopper. The glory of his nostrils is terrible. He paweth in the valley, rejoiceth in his strength, and goeth out to meet the armed men. He mocketh at fear, and is not affrighted, neither turneth back from the sword. The quiver rattleth against him, the glittering spear and the shield. He swalloweth the ground with fierceness and rage. Neither believeth he that is the sound of the trumpet. He saith among the trumpets, Ha ha. And he smelleth the battle afar off, the thundering of the captains and the shoutings. But for such footmen as thee and I are, let us never desire to meet with an enemy, nor vaunt as if we could do better. When we hear of others that they have been foiled, or be tickled at the thoughts of our manhood, for such commonly come by the worst when tried. Witness Peter, of whom I made mention before. He would swagger, he would, as his vain mind prompted him to say, do better, and stand more for his master than all men. But who so spoiled and run down by these villains as he? When therefore we hear that such robberies are done on the king's highway, two things become us to do. First, to go out harnessed, and to be sure to take a shield with us. For it was for want of that he that laid so lustily at Leviathan could not make him yield, and indeed, if that be wanting, he fears us not at all. Therefore he that had skill hath said, Above all, take the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. It is good also that we desire of the king a convoy, yea, that he will go with us himself. This made David rejoice when in the valley of the shadow of death, and Moses was rather for dying where he stood than to go one step without his God. O my brother, if he will but go along with us, what need we be afraid of 10,000s that shall set themselves against us? But without him the proud helpers fall under the slain. I for my part have been in the fray before now, and though through the goodness of him that is best, I am, as you see, alive, yet cannot boast of my manhood. Glad shall I be if I meet with no more such brunts, though I fear we are not gone beyond all danger. However, since the lion and the bear have not as yet devoured me, I hope God will also deliver us from the next uncircumcised Philistine. Then sang Christian, Poor little faith hast been among the thieves, wast robbed. Remember this whoso believes, and gets more faith shall then a victor be, over 10,000, else scarce over 3. So they went on, and ignorance followed. They went then till they came at a place where they saw a way put itself into their way, and seemed withal to lie as straight as the way which they should go. And there they knew not which of the two to take, for both seemed straight before them. Therefore here they stood, still to consider. And as they were thinking about the way, behold, a man black of flesh, but covered with a very light robe, came to them and asked them where they stood. They answered, they were going to the celestial city, but knew not which of these ways to take. Follow me, said the man. It is thither that I am going. So they followed him in the way, but now came into the road, which by degrees turned them so from the city. that they desired to go to, and in that little time their faces were turned away from it. Yet they followed him. But by and by, before they were aware, he led them both within the compass of a net, in which they were both so entangled that they knew not what to do. And with that the white robe fell off the black man's back. Then they saw where they were. Wherefore there they lay crying some time, for they could not get themselves out.